Hello everyone, welcome back to the Handspinner Review Spot YouTube channel. Click on the link in the description below to go to our Facebook page to keep up with all sorts of things like updates for what's coming up on the channel, some photography, old written reviews, that sort of thing. And if you do like what we're doing here, hit that subscription link for us, and also the notification bell to keep up with what we're doing. That really does help us out. So, what we're looking at today. A name to conjure with. This is the Custom Knife Factory Pepyakka 3.0. Now, I have had mixed experiences with the Pepyakka, and this is going to be a slightly different review because this one has been modified, and so I'm not going to labour over this too much. I want to touch upon my previous experiences with Custom Knife Factory and their pieces, but also direct you over to Nabil Sattar's page, Spinning Serenity. He's a great guy, long-term, I hope I'm getting his pronunciation of his name right actually, long-term friend for me online in the top community and all the rest of it. He's a really, really great guy, also from the UK. He's got a really nice channel that he's building up, and he's done a couple of videos on this and other pieces from Custom Knife Factory, and something indeed detailing what he did with the bearing here. So rather than waffling on about the bearing too much, although I will show you it and tell you what it's done to this particular one to mod it, we won't go on too much about that sort of thing. Instead, we'll talk about the ergonomics of the piece, some thoughts on my previous experiences with Custom Knife Factory, and maybe direct you to my old reviews, because that's got lots of detail on some of my problems with the company and the way in which they go about things. So, before we go into any of that stuff, let's have a look at some size comparisons. So there's a Pepyakka 3.0 against a torque bar. Obviously it's on a black background, so hopefully you're not losing too much there. There it is next to a tri-stubby, a Turnian, a stubby, a compass, why not? What else? That's probably enough, isn't it? You reckon that's enough? Oh, I don't know. Let's put this awesome little guy here. And we'll come back to this actually. I think we'll use this later, hopefully, to talk about something kind of integral with these. This is the Tri-Cocoon from Pos Blades. So there you go. As you can see, it's a relatively long spinner. It's not ridiculously so. They've produced slightly larger stuff than this before, but it's definitely there. It's not a short spinner, and it's got a little bit of heft to it in terms of thickness, which I'll show you as well. As you can see, hopefully you can see. Obviously, a black background with this doesn't really work that well. You can see it's actually a bit thicker than a stubby, and you don't come across that often. So what do we have here? Well, Custom Knife Factory have long boasted, and indeed I don't particularly like the way that they go about doing this, and you can read about all of that in the review that I'll link below for the Pepyakka 2.0. Long boasted that they make the most complex spinners on the market, and they make lots of comments about you know, these not just being some piece of insert expletive with a bearing in it. And yeah, sure, there's lots of intricate work going on here, and I believe it's Anton Malashev. I hope I've got that right. I haven't checked before the review, so apologies if I'm getting the designer wrong. This is one of his designs, and I think I'm right in saying that all of the Pepyakka designs have been by him. Now, I've handled knives by Custom Knife Factory, and I have only very good things to say about them. Effectively, they're a company who have all their designs done, and then they manufacture in China, and they do some assembly work back in Russia, where the company originates from. And that is the exact same thing here. So what you're looking at here is a Chinese manufactured spinner that's then put together in Russia and has a relatively hefty price tag. But there are lots of things going on. So we have these brass plates here with blue anodized titanium screws, and indeed these are actually screws, and then DLC or similar coated wing pieces here on the outside, which these brass sections are sat into, and then I presume this is titanium buttons and a titanium body, and you've got a couple of green vials of tritium there as well. So Custom Knife Factory are not lying when they say that they're making a complex product. They absolutely are, and there's lots going on here. Now, when I had my 2.0, which there was so much hype around that spinner when it was around, and there's a bit less hype about this one because they've made an awful lot more of these than they did of that, and since then they've moved on to other even more complex designs, and there is some quite amazing stuff there, I have to say. I was really, really deeply unimpressed, and I handled a few more, and I remained relatively unimpressed. And the main problem that I've had with these is inconsistency of actual performance. It's all very well to produce something which is obviously very beautiful, which has obviously got a lot of design elements to it, but ultimately this is a hand spinner and it needs to spin. And Sure, the other one's spam, but the wobble on the one that I had was very poor, and I discovered through looking at lots of other people's that while the one that I had in hand when I did the review was listed as a second, lots of the ones they shipped out in the main run wobbled just as badly, and it was really pot luck as to whether or not you got a good one. Now, Nabil at Spinning Serenity has been quite lucky. His 2.0 spins beautifully, he's got a really nice one there, but this did come to him with a little bit of wobble, not massive I don't think, but he just wasn't terribly impressed with the bearing. And while I can't show you terribly well, I do direct you over to the other review so that you can see. Generally speaking, what you get with a custom knife factory piece in the 2.0, the 3.0, is one of these bearings. This one's been switched out for a full ceramic. What you would see if this was original is all the balls just rattling around in there with no cage. And it's just not a very good bearing. So I won't labour on it here because I don't have it in front of me to show you. It's not in this spinner, so it seems like a bit of a waste of time to go on about it. But it's just not a very good bearing, full stop. And in terms of the kind of prices that are charged for these, in terms of the 2.0 and the 3.0, it's completely unacceptable to ship them with that bearing. I stand by that. I think it was the wrong move. And even if you managed to get a good one, you were one of the few in many ways. I have seen very, very few that didn't have wobble problems or didn't have the buttons catch on the body or something like that. It's not been as much of a problem with this version, but Nabil still felt the need to switch out the bearing, and indeed, like I say, I'll link you to the video he did on that, and he can tell you more about his reasonings for that and what he discovered. Now, with this bearing, this spins quite well. It's a full ceramic bearing that he's ended up with in here. I'm generally not a massive fan of full ceramic bearings. I normally find them a little bit noisy, and indeed it has made this quite a noisy spinner. But it's very smooth. And that means the design can show itself off. It's not dead smooth, I should say. I mean, it's worth just quantifying that. It does have a tiny bit of movement on the button, but I'd be nitpicking to the extreme to say that there's anything really wrong with that. The machining is all really, really nice. It's lovely and clean. It's enjoyable to spin. The one thing I would say is that on this particular design, hopefully you can see that there's some ridges along here, and for a forward flick that creates a bit of a hot spot, which isn't very nice. It kind of grinds away on your finger a bit, which isn't a very good design choice in my opinion. But in general, it is quite a nice thing to handle, and that tritium, which you won't really be able to see in this light unfortunately, creates a really nice line around the body as the body kind of disappears during the spin. Good design work, and I felt that way when I reviewed the last one. Good design work, but some issues with execution, and that remains the case really. The 4.0 is currently shipping. I believe I'm right in saying that the bearing has finally changed to something decent in that, and there's another even more complex design on the way. And so I hope that Custom Knife Factory keep on pushing these out. I'd like to see their rhetoric be a little bit less arrogant, to be honest. But apart from that, I like what they do in terms of the overall designs. I have nothing but admiration for the designers themselves. And if these would perform quite as well as I'd like them to, I'd be all over them. But as it stands right now, I still haven't handled a Custom Knife Factory piece that I'd want to carry. And although they love to talk about how they make, you know, little pieces that are something a bit more special, I'm sorry, this has just come out by Pos Blades. And this is a simple, certainly by Custom Knife Factory's wording, this would be a simple piece of metal with a bearing in it. This is gorgeous to use. It's beautifully made, machined in Germany, gorgeously finished, and it spins like very few things. It's beautifully silent, it is wonderfully ergonomic, and it's a fantastic thing to handle that feels like something simple done exceptionally well. This feels like something complicated, not quite realised. Not as bad as the 2.0 that I've handled, or the 2.0s that I've handled, I must say. I like this more than those, but it still doesn't feel like it's been completely realised. And I think they would do well to just maybe show a little bit more humility and consider what other spinner makers are doing, and consider just what they're trying to get to in terms of the actual spin performance, how comfortable they should feel, and maybe stop making quite so many sacrifices for people who actually want to use their spinner and feel like it's an enjoyable thing in hand. These will always have their fans, but as it stands right now, I can't really call myself one of them. Thank you very much, guys. Catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.